Apparently we're live. Let's just wait for the picture to come through. And can I see it? I can see us. All right, beautiful. Hello, everyone. I am the Arty Dance. Welcome to Shockmania's Friday Night Horror Chat Live. It's the May 30th edition, although it is Saturday here in Australia. But I do have with me, as always on a Friday night, Mr. NeddKnight. How are you, Mr. Ned?
I am super, Dan. Happy May 30th to you.
Thank you so much. It's May 31st to me. Tomorrow is winter.
Happy belated May 30th to you.
Thank you, sir. I am actually looking forward to winter because that's when it gets super cold and I can snuggle up on a warm blanket and just watch movies. And you keep giving me movies to watch, which is fun.
Yes, sir.
So in tonight's episode, we're going to look at 4 movies, and then I was hoping to look at a trailer as well. So we're going to look at The Ugly Stepsister. We are then going to explore the movie that I gave you, which is called Dream Home. Then we're going to look at the movie that I picked from you, which was called Pieces. And I later found out now that that is actually a Spanish movie made by a Spanish company. And I was trying to look for it and was the reason I couldn't find it anywhere because it goes under its Spanish name. And then we're going to look at, what's the last one we're going to look at? Oh my God.
We're going to look at the one recommended by you, the chat.
Oh,
The
that's
Sand.
right. It was called The Sand. And we've got a person joining us for our chat tonight. Hello, Miss Thor.
Hello,
Finally
Miss Thor.
catching this live. Maybe she's a fan of yours, Ned. Could be. I hope so. It's great to have you along.
We're all here for you, Dan. You're the meat. I'm the gravy.
No, we're actually here to entertain Miss Thor tonight, and that's the whole point of what our live stream is about. Our chat, she joins in, and of course, leave your messages with us as well. The last movie we're going to look at was The Sand. Was that right?
The Sand. That came in hot 2 weeks in a row. The chat was pressing us to see it after I had reviewed one of my 80s Cubic Zirconia's movies, the Blood Beach.
Yeah, that was right. So we were going to talk about how much The Sand is like Blood Beach and how it's also nothing like Blood Beach. But first, let's go into tonight's feature presentation, which is, it comes up. Come on, come up. Add it. Hold on, technical glitch. No, not that one, Dan. This one.
That's a great thumbnail, though.
Yes, thank you so much. The Ugly Stepsister. Now, you had been asking me for about a month to watch this. And normally I wouldn't watch something like this, but I was pretty keen when everyone else was also talking about it as well as you. So I thought I better give this a shot. Now, before we start talking about the film, can I just say that when the whole movement about making fairy tale movies into horror movies became this thing, The Ugly Stepsister was what I pictured in my head. Not Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, not all those other movies that we've had lately. It's stuff like this, where there's thought, there's idea, just the story behind Cinderella is used in this. They've changed some of the characters. They've changed the focus of the film. It still is the Cinderella story, but what I liked about this, and I'm going to go straight into it, what I liked about it was that we follow the ugly sister. We don't follow Cinderella.
So I was dying for you to see this movie for that reason. You went into a doom spiral of IP exploitation reviews. The 17 editions of Steamboat Willie / Mickey Mouse horror movies. I know we're in the Pooniverse. The Bambi movie is going to be coming out. But the difference is this movie is German. And that was the first thing that kind of really pulled me to it. And it
now I might have to correct.
This was a movie that
it's not German. I believe it is.
Oh, it's not.
It's a bit further up north than Germany. It's either Swedish or
North Germany.
Well, yeah, Norwegian. Let's call that North Germany. I actually believe it could be Swedish because I was looking at the end credits and it did list Sweden several times as locations in it. So I'm sorry to interrupt you on that one, but like I said, I do believe this is Swedish. And let's have a look. And our main
I love the
actress here-
correction.
no, it is Norwegian. So sorry, it is. There we go.
Oh, even
Yes.
better.
Yeah. So keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So this not German movie, I put the trailer on, and when I watch a trailer, sometimes I don't know about you, I'll stop it if I'm like, okay, I'm in, I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yep.
want any, I don't want any more fingers in my ears, and covered up my hands. And I'm waiting for. So I waited for this movie to come out.
Yeah.
And it did have some good word of mouth prior to it being aired. So I went into it with eyes, pretty much a little bit of a higher expectation, and I was very pleased that it kind of like, I wasn't quite there. Halfway through the movie, I was waiting to see kind of where it was going to be going. Like anything else, you wonder how much it's going to deviate when it has like a very familiar setting, theme here, characters here. And I was really quite like looking back on it, the fact that it didn't really deviate from the story of Cinderella, like at all, in terms of the beats of what occurs. But yet the story is like completely different. And you are 1,000% correct, Dan, that this is the kind of swings you would love to see more studios taking with IPs and such. Give us like a new lens to it, I think is what you use for an expression. Give us a new tone to it.
Yeah.
And this is a really dark, brooding tone. But I'll tell you what I really liked about it was that it felt as grim as this movie was. It felt fairly real. The characters, their behaviors felt earnest and sincere. I love the authenticity of this movie, which is what made some of the graphic moments all the more visceral.
And there were some quite graphic moments in the film. I'll just give a quick synopsis about it. Two sisters. Now I'm going to get their names right. Alma and Elvira. Two sisters, and they along with their mother. They move into a new house because the mother gets remarried to what appears to be quite a rich man, and he has a daughter called Agnes, I believe. The father dies. The father dies quite hilariously. And I thought that was one of the two moments that you asked me to look out for in the movie, when the father dies by just plonking his head in there. He has a heart attack and just smashes the cake, which I thought was quite funny. And then the reality kicks in that no one's got any money. And these people are actually poor and were looking to marry the woman for her money. Then the prince's assistant comes out and lets everyone know that the prince will be having a ball in 4 months' time to look for a bride. So our main character, Elvira, who loves reading the prince's poetry, decides in her head that she is going to get his attention. However, she is, as the title says, hideously ugly, and is kind of laughed out of the idea that she would ever be his bride. And in fact, there's a scene later on in the film where that exactly happens, where the prince laughs at her and the friends of the prince. So she decides, along with her mother, that they're going to get some plastic surgery and some finishing classes to get his attention, and hence the metal plate that we see covering her nose, because she gets a nose job, which was that was really got me, that bit. I watched it like that because that creeps me out. So she gets a nose transplant. She gets her braces taken off. She learns how to dance, much to the hatred of her finishing teacher, who then finds out. We then find out that the mother has bribed the teacher to ensure that she.
Are we getting into spoilers?
I'm possibly. Sorry, I don't mean to get to spoiler. I'll get to the meat and potatoes bit then. She then ends up at the ball trying to get the prince's attention, along with all the other girls. At the same time, she gets rid of her rival, who is Agnes. Now, I thought Agnes was an interesting character in the fact that the prince was quite adamant that he wanted a virgin, Yet she was clearly not.
It was in the invitation.
It was in the
The
invitation.
invitation called for a virgin maiden for him to wed.
Yes, and so I find that
when
interesting.
they ran into the folks in the woods, they were his bros, and him were clearly didn't care. They were just looking for some hot young thing to have fun with.
Yes. So I always thought that would have been odd that if he'd have picked Agnes, that he would have known straight away that he wasn't getting what he bargained for. But we ignore plot holes because who cares about it. The whole fun was watching what happens to Elvira and how it goes from bad to really good to then falling off a cliff. And when it falls off a cliff, it is remarkable. The downfall and the spiral is incredible in this film. Ending with what I assume is the second scene that you told me to look out for, which was the scene that you predicted once, involving a modification to feet. Let's just put it that way. Which, again, was another scene that had me doing this.
Have to get the shoe to fit. We're getting to some spoilers here, and so I apologize if somebody wants to go see this movie now, but or afterwards. I still recommend you see it.
Absolutely.
I want to be a little bit cautious with some of the really gritty parts that are good to watch, but make no mistake, this is a character study, and this is, to me, I believe it's an origin story, because I believe this, widowed woman with her two daughters, as you put out, they're trying to make a better life for themselves. She marries clearly an older man, and then when desperation strikes, when he dies and they have no money. So there's one, Elvira is helpless romantic, but she is like doe-eyed. She's innocent. The mother, however, is calculative, and she is not, we'll say, evil per se, but she's clearly someone who's desperate and someone who's willing to do whatever she needs to do. And so, knowing that this potential marriage to the prince will pull them out of poverty and save them, they're both going to do whatever they can. Now, the mother's doing it purely from a business perspective, and Elvira's doing it purely from a fantastical romance of what she thinks is, love.
What love? Yeah.
And what we see is them trying to inject her with sexuality. Now, the woman who's playing Cinderella, we see that she's already a sexual being. There's a moment where you realize that, and that we don't need to go into the details of it, but basically the movie makes it very clear that she is not a virgin.
Very clear, I would say.
They're like, this is what's going to happen. I'm holding it in my hand. There's the entry point, and not virgin. I mean,
here's the rocket ship.
Borderline X. It was almost like textbook. Like, hey, this is Sex 101, guys.
It is
not virgin.
Yeah.
But we see Elvira becoming a sexual being, and you can tell she is uncomfortable. She's no longer becoming the sweet doe-eyed girl. She becomes a fish out of water the more things that are done to her and the more things that she's pushed into. And she's constantly prodded, pushed into all this stuff. But the prize is romance and love. And she does end up, through reconstructive surgery, really. I don't think there's a whole lot of plastic going on there. No polymers in this movie. But there were, the procedures that she undergoes. One of them is she's gifted with an egg, if you will, to help her expedite her weight loss. And we see that, and the movie does an amazing job of keeping little measured tones of all the different things that are happening to her inside and out, emotionally, psychologically. Like, she is getting messed up. And meanwhile, her younger sister is witness to all this, and she's horrified. And it all culminates in spectacular fashion. I thought that girl Flo was phenomenal in this movie. She had a very small role, but she was excellent. And the culmination of everything at the end, that third act goes off the charts.
Off the charts.
It's gripping. It won't listen. If you have any interest, it's this is one of those things too where you decide, okay, how do I define a horror movie? Like, is it scary? No, but there's for sure horror elements in there, and it's very dark and grim.
This reminds me a lot of the Thai movie The Maid, which is exactly the same. The first 2/3 of the movie are this setup, are this drama, this doe-eyed character, this innocent person, and then the last third just goes batshit insane. And that's exactly what happens in this film. It goes batshit insane. Now, I have a couple of problems with the film. One of them is the fantasy element in it. I'm not sure I liked how it fit in with the rest of the movie. So the fantasy element being the dead mother / fairy godmother bit. And I'm wondering whether I missed something there. Was that genuine? Was that a hallucination? Was this Elvira like just snapping and going into some kind of mental hell before that bit? That's what I'm kind of not 100% sure about. What's your thought on the whole fairy godmother bit?
So the first, fairy that came in there was the tailor, right? That did the dress, and basically his price was betting her mom. So I think one was supposed to be a contrasting what was being manufactured, like manufactured blessing or good luck or goodwill, because it's coming from a really bad place. And the other was from this. They gave us a glimpse into the Cinderella light. We're saying, well, this story is actually about vindication and emerging from misery, which is what she was doing. Because while the lens is on Elvira, and we also know that the girl, I forget her name, but who's ultimately called Cinderella,
Agnes.
She's not exactly very nice, but you can tell she's been very protective of her father. And she saw these people as infiltrators into her home, trying to take it, and that she knew her father was doing because they thought they had money. But then we see, how they treat the father and what happens with her. And they also show she's truly like in love and head over heels for this farm boy. So we're watching these two characters. One of them is being like manufactured, elevated into a status of sexuality, while the other one's being pushed down into the ground. And where you go from the ground is nowhere to go but up.
I'm going to disagree with you over her not being nice. I think she was just protecting her turf and protecting her father.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree with you, especially peeling back at it. In the moment, I'm like, she's kind of being a bee. But
she deserved to be, I thought. Yeah.
Then you see how things play out and you think to yourself, okay, you know something? I understand why she was the way she was. So I felt that Cinderella is the good guy in this movie. But
yeah, exactly.
So is Elvira. Elvira's the victim.
But she is a victim of her mother. Yes.
Yeah, now, for sure.
I'm confused when all of a sudden she started being called Cinderella, and I was wondering whether that was an actual subtitle addition or whether that's actually in the proper Norwegian version. I'd be very curious to know, because all of a sudden halfway through the film, she just starts to be called Cinderella, and there was no lead up to that. So I'd be curious to know a proper Norwegian version to see what happens. There was another point that I had that I wanted to mention about this film. My God, this is what happens with old age. You just forget stuff. This is not good.
I think it was a part where you said, thank you, Ned, for recommending this movie.
Oh, totally. Thank you, Ned, for recommending. And in fact, while I've got you here and while I'm on TMDB, let's give it a rating. So I am going to give it a user score. What would I give this? What's my vibe? I'd say I'd give this an 8, an 80. So that'd be a 4 out of 5. I don't like these mood things that TMDB does.
Agreed.
So I'm not going to use any of those. I'm just going to give it a rating of 8 out of 10 or 4 ghosts out of 5. I think it definitely deserves to be that. I like the fact that we got a non-traditional horror film, but technically the textbook definition of a horror film. And the adaptation of a story done absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
Take that, ITN, have a listen to what they did, because their budget wasn't massive in this. You can tell it's not a massive budget. Find an old Norwegian castle, get a couple of costumes made up, boom, Bob's your uncle, done. It's not like they had millions to do this. So ITN,
this is the playbook right there.
Yeah, this is the playbook. It's not a slasher, and it doesn't need to be a slasher. This was how it's done. So I think they've done Cinderella absolute justice.
Yep, I agree. I really thoroughly liked it. I needed someone else to watch it, and only because I don't want to mention spoilers here because it's still a fairly fresh movie. But boy, I mean, you and I could chat about it later. But
yes,
the 2 scenes, and I think I may have mentioned there's one scene that beats out the ass zombies scene, and they both utilize the same creature.
That just kept going. Oh my god.
It was tremendous. But all right, let's pause. Hit the pause button. But yeah, that was tremendous.
That was tremendous. Yes. So Ugly Stepsister comes recommended from the both of us. If you're watching this, and if you've seen it, of course, leave a comment below to let us know what you thought of it. Let's move into the next film then. And the next film we're going to look at is from Hong Kong. This is my recommendation to you. And it's called Dream Home. So do you want to take it away?
Yeah. So the last movie was not a slasher. And in case you cannot tell from the poster, I mean, there's nothing more classic. This is a slasher movie than somebody looking right at you holding a butcher knife.
Oh.
You don't think it's a slasher?
No.
Really?
Yep.
This is 100% a slasher movie. Oh, I love it. Okay, good. Let's get into it. But anyway, so this is about the protagonist, if you will, is a woman. I'm probably going to butcher her name, like Germany. Chang Lai Shung. Anyway, so she is it's a Hong Kong movie, and it opens by saying based on a true story. And
yeah,
that kind of lowered my expectations.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But we learn through it opens up with a sort of a masked, shadowy individual and a poor security guard, and the first of what would be a series of horrific murders. It's very graphic. A lot of it's close up. This one was particularly close up. And again, it happens so early, but it almost reminded me of like a Saw movie, because this security guard had the opportunity to get himself out of this predicament, and it required mutilating himself to do so, in which he ends up killing himself. I won't go into the details of it. I thought that was gripping. That was well played. So then there are periods where we're being brought back into the past, and we're seeing a young girl, and she's very poor, and she's pushed out of her home due to all this real estate movement, because Hong Kong's becoming an up and coming city, and it's going to have lots of new constructions and developments. So they get pushed out with her family, her grandparents, and she dreams about living, and the grandfather has dreamt about it too, being able to like walk to work with a home that overlooks the bay, the Victoria Harbor. So throughout this movie, she's basically, as a young child, talking about how one day she's going to live in this beautiful place, and she's going to bring her family there. Well, it keeps going back to present time, and we see more murders, more kills, and they're all happening in this building. flashes back, and we see how her grandparents pass away. Then her mom passes away. Her father passes away. Her father's sick. She can't afford. Her father actually passes away when she's older, and she can't afford to take care for him anymore. And there's a pretty good scene with that. And I have to say, all like the little backdrop interludes are pretty well done, but they're stark contrast to then the gruesome murders that are happening in real time. And this movie is from 2010, so I think we can go and get the spoilers on this. But she gets enough money to basically kind of put like a bid in for this new apartment, and lo and behold, it's in the building that all these murders are happening, and we learn about through the halfway mark that the killer is her. She's the one who's just going into apartments and just murdering people, and the movie never ever gives you any impression there's a rhyme or reason to any of this. The ending, the twist of it, if you will, I thought was fucking hysterical. And we can get into it now, Dan, if you want to. But why don't you tell me what you remember of the movie? Because I know you had seen it a little bit further ago. And how I did with the summary. And then, what you liked about it. And then I'll give you my impression.
Well, you obviously, because you've watched it more recently, your memory of it's far better than mine. What I remember, and maybe it sounds like I got it wrong, was that she actually did get the bid on the apartment, and she was successful without all the killings happening, but then gets told that she lost the bid to someone else because they wanted more money. And that's why she starts the killing. She wants to bring the property price back down so she can get her apartment back. She doesn't kill to get the apartment initially. She's already got it. She loses it, and she kills to get it back. So that's my memory of the film.
Okay.
Had they not have fucked her over, I don't think she would have killed everyone in the building to get her apartment. I love the film because, exactly like you said, it's just this sweet, innocent lady played by Josie Ho, who is the daughter of an extremely rich Macau businessman. So she's bought her way into acting, but she's at least decent at it. And it stars a guy called Derek Tsang, who gets brutally murdered in the sex orgy scene. Who later went on to direct one of Hong Kong and China's most popular drama films called Better Days, which is a complete contrast to this film. What I like about this film is that this is made purely by a bunch of Hong Kong filmmakers who love Hong Kong. And at 2010, there were still movies like this being made. So when people say movies like this can't get made anymore, what they mean is this movie would never appeal to mainland China. And to make a movie like this, they would need mainland Chinese funding. And so thus, this is one of the last real Hong Kong horror movies made. It's a dying genre, as many people would have noticed. And that's another reason why I probably hold this one a little bit close to my heart, because it's got some of that traditional Hong Kong violence mixed in with just the whole rat race of Hong Kong together with just people trying to survive. And if you see older movies like the Pork Bun, Char Siu Bao, it's films like that. People who are just trying to survive, who do some brutal things in the name of surviving to get along. And that's what she does here. Now, we end with the fact that we don't even know whether she ever moves into the place, because, she ends up killing a few police officers as well. And I felt sorry for it at the end. And that's why I refused to call this a slasher film, because I never feel sorry for any slasher icons. I feel sorry for her at the end because
that's funny. That's what makes this movie
because
funny.
She had everything that she wanted, and it was taken away from her due to greed. That's why.
Yeah,
and it's
throughout the whole movie.
A theme of her life. Yep, it happened when she was young, when she split up with her boyfriend/husband, when her family died because she couldn't afford the medication. It's always been about greed And this is her way of getting her revenge back. And hence, I very much sympathized with her. And as you can see on the screen, my score for the movie is a 90 out of 100 for it. That's how much I absolutely adored it. So, yeah, it's interesting to look at a film like this and get some different perspectives from other people about what they think of it. I remember when we had the chat, Kimber liked it. Kimber was giving it a big thumbs up. So that's why I thought there was more people like me who agreed that this was one of those movies.
Yeah. So you're right. She's the sellers wanted to raise the price on her. I didn't know that she had already secured it though. So that might have been lost to me. I thought she was just kind of desperately trying to put a bid on it, but they kept on raising it on her. Now at the end, she did secure the purchase of it. That was clear to me. Okay, cool. And I think that's what it ends, if I recall, was her just kind of with, a wry smile, hanging up the phone, and then she walks away from her boyfriend, who is, of course, married, which is something else the movie's not very subtle on, was that every single successful or every single man in Hong Kong is a whore. And basically, like, if they're married, they're cheating on them, and if they're not married, they're even a lower scumbag, and they're taking advantage by getting girls drunk and high.
Yeah,
So every man in that movie is a dirtbag,
and that's fair enough. And that's what she gets. She gets it from everyone. Everyone's sleazy. Everyone's a dirtbag to her. She can't trust anyone except herself.
Now, does that justify her actions? Because I'll give you this much. Her tragic backstory turned her, I guess, into a psychopath. But she's such a functional psychopath. And you can see her, like, when she's killing people, there's moments where it's a struggle and she's fighting and you're rooting for her. Like, oh no, that innocent guy she tried to kill, and she just killed his wife. His pregnant wife.
And
he's fighting back. He's fighting back. Oh no, get up. Don't let him retaliate after killing his pregnant wife.
Yeah.
Don't kill her, go.
Yeah. And the orgy scene, like, some of the characters stay alive far too long. Far too long.
Oh, well, yes. One character in particular.
Yeah.
So the movie absolutely, and I read a little bit of the development of the movie where they really wanted to make it much more of a melodrama. But the actress, was it
Josie Ko, yeah.
Josie, okay.
Ko. Yep.
So she wanted to make a gonzo because some slasher movies had recently come out, and she's like, let's push the limits here. Let's go ahead and make it like, I want to see it be as violent as possible.
Good on her.
So and frankly, that's what I enjoyed the most of this movie, was all the slasher elements of it. I really, it's brutal. I thought it was well shot. I thought all the actors did a really good job of portraying people in their present plights. The movie felt seedy and gritty. Like, I felt like everybody was scummy, which is what the movie was going for. Yeah. And the most innocent person who pulls your sympathy is the one who's, disemboweling everybody.
Now, there's a reason why it's well shot. And there's a reason why it looks gritty, and that's to do with these two chaps on the screen here. Derek, as I mentioned before, Derek Tsang, but also Juno Mak, who, if you remember, I've probably recommended you watch a film called Rigor Mortis before. Yeah, Juno Mak is behind that, and he is, when it comes to films, he's incredible. He's very stylistic when it comes to the stuff that he does. So while they're not credited as the director, these guys, there's a whole bunch of directors got together to act in the movie to help out the main director of this film. And it's their style that's fed into the movie as well. Hence why it's got that such gritty violent but almost comedic style look. Like some of them, and again, I go back to the orgy scene because that's where the directors are in. It's that scene is just it's so ridiculously brutal
And long. She's in that apartment for a while.
And even when the police officer comes and says, there's a noise going in here, no, everything's fine, and there's the dude in the background with the blood splurting out of his neck, I believe, or something. There's a dude in the background.
I think the guy who might have, I couldn't tell if maybe the guy who had his intestines spilled all over the ground, and there's a scene where he's trying to get a drag of his weed
cigarette,
and he just can't. And the light goes out, and he's just so like disappointed. Like he's literally like his lap is covered in his intestines. He's been just sitting there left to just eventually bleed out. And he's like, oh, when the thing goes out on him, he can't get a pull from it.
So what would you rate the film?
So on your meter, I got to give it 3. I did like it. I do recommend it. It's not. I recommend it for the violence and the kills. I thought there was another moment too that when we're not watching the slasher, but we're watching her as a young girl, and she's talking to her friend. You know what I'm talking about, over the little cup phone, and they're just a string of profanity just comes out of nowhere between both of them. And they're just like saying, oh, no, I'm going to call you a fuck asshole. No, you say fuck asshole. We'll say asshole to go over. And they go, no, you motherfucker. And it's like, whoa. I'm like, I'm not, I'm like, I had my dad's hands up. I'm like, I'm not okay with this.
Again, I think part of that is there are no equivalent words like that in Cantonese. So
you think it was just
it's been made worse.
The subtitles? Yeah.
I think
it makes it better.
Well,
but it makes it.
Again, you'll see a lot of movies from Hong Kong that have a lot of swearing in it that in the main track is not there. It's just added by the subtitler. But sometimes it suits the film, and in this case, I think it does because they're just completely, like you said, innocent kids. Probably don't even really know what they're saying.
It was so out of place, but
stringing it out.
Yeah.
So that's Dream Home from Hong Kong. Now we're going to go on to your recommendation, which was quite a surprise. Can I just say, Pieces? I don't know the Spanish name for it, but it's Pieces from 1982. Now the thing is, I watched this 2 and a bit weeks ago, so my memory of it, the storyline, may be a bit vague, which is why I'm going to ask you. Or should I try? Do you want me to try?
I can go. No, I got it. Let me go. Because you're going to do the
please. Yes, please. Yeah.
So this movie, Mil Gritos Tian la Noche.
That's it. Yeah.
The movie starts out, and all we know, and you could tell it's a foreign movie. I mean, now I know in retrospect, and you realize a lot of things make sense because it takes place in Boston, and that's all you really know. And it's at a Boston college, a Boston University, a Boston college of sorts. Now, Dan, I'm from Boston, so
okay.
I happen to know there are many, many colleges and universities that could fit in this bill here. But so it's 1942, and we see a young 10-year-old putting together a puzzle. And this boy's putting together this puzzle, and it pans over, and you realize the puzzle he's putting together is a centerfold, a naked centerfold. And he's got all the pieces in there except for the one. The one piece that goes right in the vagina. It's the only piece that's missing, which I thought was hysterical. And the mom comes in the room, and she is, distraught to see her young son with this smut. And she basically takes it away. She gets angry, and the kid loses it. And again, this is not really too many spoilers here, but this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. He just goes to town on her with I believe it was a hatchet. I believe it was a hatchet he had in his hand. And he just basically just totally destroys his mom. Uh, the
No clues here.
Kendall's
yeah, it
face.
is. There you go. It is a
Oh,
hat.
it's an axe. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So that scene I thought was amazing. And I'm like, what am I in for here? This could be something fun. Then it goes into present day, which is 1982. And we're in a university now, and there's a stalker who is starting to kill females. And when he's killing females, he's also leaving their bodies, but they're missing pieces. And where are these pieces going? Why is this killer doing this? What is he up to? The movie is so on the nose. All throughout this, from here on out, it is like they even show the killer. It's like slowly putting the jigsaw back together. The jigsaw from when clearly it's the boy. And I love how the boy gets out of it. The boy hides in a closet, and the police find him, and they think, "Oh my God, what happened?" You know, and they think the boy's innocent, of course.
Yeah.
But how the movie goes from right after that opening scene to the last act is just one of my favorite words I like to use. Utter fucktardance. Nothing. There's all of the character behavior makes no sense. All of the motivations, like keeping this school open, right? While all these murders are happening on campus, not letting anybody know because you don't want to start a panic. Don't let anybody know that someone is out actively killing hot young women on a college campus. The police not wanting to let it get out into the news because it might interrupt their investigation. And the police they're befuddled. They have no clues. They end up enlisting the help of one of the college kids on campus who's only really, the movie only established him as apparently he's someone that women likes to sleep with. We're introduced to this guy in a library, Kendall, with a girl just randomly walk up to him going, "I want to do it in the pool."
Yes.
And I told you this in a text. I said, my favorite moment is when he looks at that text and that message and he's like, after this chapter. And he keeps reading his book. I don't know. Dan, that book would have closed so fast it would have shot the hair back in the side of my head.
For us normal men, yes, but not for this Casanova. No.
Yeah, he's like, just another day in the life of old Kendall.
Yeah.
But the police enlist him for help. And you see him in the third act. He's in the police headquarters with one of the detectives going through records trying to discover what's going on.
And hilariously, they even mentioned, "You're not a police officer, but we'll let you do it anyway." I like that bit.
They actually say it, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Dan, go ahead. Take us through.
So then the police put in a ex-tennis player who's now turned police officer to go undercover on the campus to see if she can get close to the killer. And it gets even more ridiculous as Kendall tries to sleep with her, but for once an actual woman rejects him and he can't actually bed her.
Not yet. I mean, she clearly indicates like, "Oh, you cutie."
Yeah.
We'll see.
So the killer gets more and more brazen, and then we start given the red herrings, which are the typical red herrings. Is it the massive, oversized, psychotic gardener who's only supposed to be there for a few months and has overstayed his welcome? Then the killings keep happening, and then we get to the end, essentially. That involves the reveal. It involves a kind of date rape drug from the looks of it. It involves a reference back to Dr. Frankenstein and a lot of blood. A lot of blood. Now, can I just say something? Now, this is my technical nerdy brain kicking in, right? This movie was shot on film, and as you know, film stock's expensive. They don't want to waste film stock. Clearly, when there's intercuts of him putting the puzzle back together, I'm looking at this going, now, normally you do this piece by piece, right? They're trying to save film by getting him to put multiple pieces of the puzzle back together at the same time, because they're just thinking, we need to get this shot, but it has to be quick. But then you can see throughout while he's doing it, he fucks up and he can't get the pieces in place. And I'm sitting there thinking, I can guarantee you the director's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? He's thinking every second of film he's shooting is costing him money. And I'm watching this going, this is just glorious technical issue right here with this puzzle piece. And you can tell they've done it multiple times because the pieces look horrible. They're curling up, so they're not going in place properly.
Well, I mean, it's a 40-year-old puzzle, Dan.
But in the background, you can just hear the director going, you rehearsed this already. Why are you fucking this up? And then, as you keep saying to me, Bruce Lee appears. I don't know.
Yeah, Bruce Lee, the karate professor.
And when they ask him what he's doing there, he goes, I must have eaten bad chop suey, and then just walks off. Like,
yep.
What's that?
One of the greatest C actor cameos of all time.
Yeah. Now, I have to say, what I loved about this movie is stuff like this shadowing, this production value side of it. It's so cheesy, and it is so well done, though. Like that shot there, look, you can kind of see his nose just very briefly. You're probably not seeing it on the stream there, but that's kind of not an easy shot to do, involving a lot of good lighting and probably having him dressed up in a lot of black. But it just looks so effective when it's done right. So there was a lot of talent on the set here, regardless of how ridiculous the ending was, regardless of how little it kind of made sense, and regardless of the fact that I was confused why poor Kendall gets his dick ripped off. Because Lyle and I both at the same time were watching it. Unbeknownst to me, Lyle was watching it at the same time.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
And he sends me this message and goes, what's with his dick getting ripped off at the end? And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, what is that bit? So then I text you to then you remind me, because of course Kendall's such this love doll that even this freaky creation that's been made wants a piece of him.
Everybody wants a piece. Everybody wants a piece of Kendall in pieces.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. When I talk to people about just having fun with horror movies, these are the examples that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has some good kills in it. The cheese factor in this movie is really what I was here for. This is not a good movie. This is a bad movie you can have fun watching. As you know, I am just a connoisseur of chainsaw as a weapon in horror movies.
Yeah.
You have two. This is the most quintessential example of the ridiculousness of chainsaws. Because on one hand, you get the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where we actually don't really see the chainsaw cutting into anybody. It's used more like a visual effect, a sound effect.
Scare the girls, yeah.
I know he kills the guy in the wheelchair with the chainsaw, but we don't actually kind of see it. You could tell it's brutal, and the guy's not going anywhere. He's in a wheelchair. Then you get Pieces, which treats the chainsaw like a lightsaber, like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Tatooine. Just chop people's arms off. I mean, that chains. And what I also love about it is there's that scene where he goes in the elevator, and there's one of the girls is in there, and we only see that silhouette figure from the back, and she goes, "Oh, it's you," and he just kind of walks into the elevator, and he's hiding a chainsaw behind his back. And I'm like, yes, this is so stupid. I love it.
But it suits the theme of the film. There's so much stupidity throughout the whole film that it's just like a student had written it. It is a great example of someone going, I want to make a movie, but I don't want to make it realistic. I want to make it entertaining. So, you have the high school student or the university student join the police force. You have an ex-tennis champion somehow becomes a police detective, who then goes back to being a tennis champion. You have
who's terrible at tennis and terrible at police work.
You were right. The way she was whacking the ball was.
They got the camera close up to her. That guy was a master puzzle solver compared to her ability to play tennis.
Okay, I'll give you that. Yes. Yeah, I'll give you that one. Yep. And you put the Bruce exploitation character in it.
Inexplicably.
Yeah, random nudity everywhere. Just very, very 80s. Very fun.
On the nudity, I actually was uncomfortable watching a lot of it because, just like you said, this was written by a couple of 8th graders after school. And kind of like, not to be, super punny here, but like the name Pieces, like they probably said, hey, what are some of the things we enjoy seeing in horror movies? And how can we're going to crank it to 11, This is like the Mountain Dew of slasher movies. And they just kind of hodgepodged it, and they got masking tape and duct tape and gum holding different pieces together. They go, here it is. And it's just a mess. But back on the nudity, speaking of that, they go, we need to get girls in here who are willing to be naked. And I could just imagine like the casting for this being like, okay, you realize we're going to, we want to see your boobs. And a lot of the nudity scenes, I could feel the girls were not comfortable doing it. Like, okay, here we go. I got to take off my top now. I'm going to jump in the water as fast as possible.
But you also see Kendall's dick too.
Yeah. They go all around. I don't think he had a problem showing it either. I think he was the one person on set who didn't mind being naked.
No, that's true. That's true. What I was going to say is just based on what you just said then, looking at the time frame of this, 1982. So we're not looking at a lot of movies to actually go back and reference to make, to give a lot of the research behind the film into it. There's not, at this stage, you're looking at like the very early phases of the slasher genre. I mean, even though, maybe you can go back to the 1960s with Psycho, of what you're doing with slasher films and just silly films like this in general. So I reckon a lot of it was not just because of what have we watched that we like. I think a lot of it is just what do we just like in general and how do we put it together?
Yeah, there's a lot of undercurrent movies that try to gleam and glom off of the success of Halloween, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Hills Have Eyes.
Well, the start was very Halloween. Very Halloween.
Yeah. So and there were lots of, again, some movies that kind of like were very, very much under the radar. The Last House on the Left, I think, was from the 70s.
Yes.
I want to say maybe Prom Queen or for sure Terror Train, or one of those was like 81. Friday the 13th, I think, was 80. Yeah, 80? Boy, if my buddy K2 was on here, he would be rattling these off by the day and the month they came out.
I think by this year, even looking at the sequel to Friday as well. So you've got part 2 was also out.
Yeah. So I think there was enough where they're like, we're just going to make the most, like, even the trailer for this, I think, says, we cannot show you what's in this movie because even to show you anything, clips in this movie would be, would cause you to be sick and, run away from the theater. Or we couldn't show you, like, the trailer for this movie is amazing. It's such great 80 nostalgic, film iconography, just the classic guttural voice. What you're about to see cannot be shown in this theater.
Hey, Ned, was it the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre where the guy in the trailer says, keep repeating, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. Was it the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
You could be right.
That's always stuck with me, that one.
Dude, it's when they knew how to do trailers. I mean, we could go on a side rant here, but they have really lost the art of making trailers today. But boy, oh boy, were trailers phenomenal. Like sometimes like for movies that I might have been too young to remember the trailers, but I definitely like Jaws, which, by the way, that's what this shirt is Jaws.
Say that
You're trying to
again.
get what the shirt is. Jaws, Amity,
Oh,
1975.
right. Yes, we were chatting to that before with the stream started. Yes. Okay.
But the trailer for Jaws is amazing, amazing.
I don't recall it. I'd have to look it up. I know I've
You
seen it.
got it. You got to Google, and then the voice just he talks about basically the great white shark, what it does. It swims. It's an animal. It's as old as the dinosaurs. It's as if the devil created a monster and gave it Jaws. It just, I mean, my I don't have that voice, obviously, but
Not me
the
either.
trailer guy just sends me, gets my arms on end. My arms on end. The hair on my arms on end.
And I think that's why we both looked at the trailer recently for Monsters, and both found it very interesting because it kind of doesn't give too much away. It's still very modern horror movie trailer, but I think they like the look of Monsters that's coming out soon, because it does have that bit of a vibe of going back to the older trailers where they don't tell you straight away what's going on. Get a bit of that story built up first. You're right. The art of trailers is long gone, but pieces will always remain. And so pieces, I gave it just then. I scored it a 3 out of 5 because it was just fun.
It's fine. I don't think I give it a 3, but
Wow.
that doesn't mean you can't like it. You know,
Remember, the ghost rating's about having fun, not about how actually good the film is. And that's why you've got your poop meter.
Yeah, my poop meter is for movies that I cannot recommend.
Well, speaking of movies we can't recommend, we're probably going to have a look at the thumbnail movie now, which is called The Sand. And I think I'm being a bit cruel when I say don't recommend, because there's certainly fun elements to be had with this movie, but there's probably more frustration than fun. What do you think?
Well, the summary is really not too substantial.
And I'll do this.
This is a movie of its time. This movie, it's a 2015 movie, huh? Because the movie feels like it came out in the year 2000.
Yes. Yes.
But it looks like, except for the fact that they the CGI blood effects in this were, now it seems about right.
Well, it is 10 years old. So I'll give a synopsis of what the movie's about. We've got a bunch of recently finished high school students. Now, we call them high school in Australia. I don't know what the hell you guys call them, but people who are 18 years old, who have just finished their education system, but before they move into university, deciding to have one last party on the beach before they go off to another party somewhere else. So they have this wildly raucous party on the beach, and two of them find a mysteriously slimy looking object, which they continue to have a bit of fun with while they're on the beach. They all go to bed with drunk and wake up the next morning with severe hangovers to find that most of their friends are missing, and there's only really a handful of them left. And we see a particular naked girl, by the way, by the name of, what is her name? Nikki Lee. I believe she's a playmate who was quite happy to do the whole movie naked, from what I understand, Ned. But but the director refused and said, no, it would be weird if you were completely naked. Anyway, she wakes up, steps on the sand, and all of a sudden mysteriously disappears while all of her friends watching. So she's got 2 friends sitting in a lifeguard tower. She's got 4 friends sitting in a car nearby the lifeguard tower, and a mysteriously rotund chap wedged into an oil barrel, done as a prank. So that's essentially our cast here of 7 people plus Marsha, who gets mysteriously eaten by the sand. And they start freaking out, wondering what's going on, why is she disappearing, and noticing that this sand seems to be taking things from the surface. They then waste their only source of food, being a series of uncooked hot dogs, by trying to figure out how big this particular creature is, so then they can try to outsmart it. Lo and behold, while they decide to wait out to see if they get rescued, and surprisingly for a beach on a very sunny day, no one ever comes to it. So I thought that was extremely odd. But eventually a ranger comes, played hilariously by Jamie Kennedy, who's quite obviously trying to salvage whatever of his career was left. Clearly doesn't believe a single word that any of these people are saying, and also promptly gets eaten by the sand. Now, they start to eventually try to figure out ways to get out of their predicament, and then realize that the big, mysteriously ugly thing that they found yesterday has hatched, and they kind of put one and one together and realize that that's the monster that is trying to kill them. Now, for an Australian, I have to say, and you're not going to understand who I'm talking about here, but this particular chap dragged my attention. Because back in the early 2000s, this particular chap was on Australian Idol. And so, you know, American Idol, Australian Idol. And he came, I don't know, third, fourth. And so I've always known Dean Geyer as the South African guy who came to Australia to sing and then somehow ended up in an acting career, and then somehow ended up in a cheap sci-fi movie called The Sand.
He finally
Did I like this film? Absolutely not. I did not like this film. Did I enjoy this film? Absolutely, I did. And that is a predicament for me, Ned, because I hated the film, but I enjoyed every second of it. So make that make sense.
No, I cannot. In fact, and this movie came recommended to us by our good friends Kimba 94 and Lyle.
To be fair, sorry, he recommended it only because we'd seen Blood Beach, and this movie is kind of inspired by Blood Beach.
I'm not cool with that caveat, because they did it for the last two streams. They threw this at us. So as far as I'm concerned, this came with a rousing recommendation from both of them. They're not off the hook. They're not off the hook for this.
All right.
This movie starts out horrifically, and if it were not for the recommendation, there's no way I would have gotten to the end of this movie. There's not a chance. Even how hot three out of four girls were in this, and the other one was okay.
Who wasn't okay?
I mean, the one of the final girls, she was
okay.
I mean, listen, compared to the other three actresses, I mean, you know, that's some tough competition. So, anyways,
yeah, you're a hard man to please. Okay.
Hey, she was a 7. I'll give her a 7. Okay, Dan. So she, even how beautiful these girls were. So hats off to the casting person who got them in the movie. There was not enough here to pull me into it, but because I was strapped in, if you give this an emoji, it's going to impact our relationship. Just so you know that. An
angry emoji.
Don't stay away from the emoji, Dan.
Okay.
Back the fuck away from those emojis.
I've just rated it. No emojis. No emojis.
However, since I was clockworked oranged into this chair watching this movie, I found myself starting to like it. It was growing on me as this movie was playing out, because they're so stupid. And I was just waiting, like, I couldn't wait to see what the next dumb thing was going to happen. And I was rooting for certain characters. Like, I absolutely wanted the girl who got her fingers wedged into the trunk, her to survive, because she was the hottest. Because she was the hottest. And I was rooting big time for Cockface. I wanted Cockface to live so badly. And for those of you who haven't seen the movie, and bless you for having seen it, Cockface is the big black guy who was shoved into the garbage can, but he was passed out and they drew a cock on his face. So for 90% of this movie, every time we're staring at this guy in a garbage can, all he sees is gigantic cock on his face, you know? And he was even the movie is not meant to be taken seriously, but yet, except for the Jamie Kennedy stuff, who basically kind of walks in here and he kind of acts like the audience, just pointing out all the ridiculous things going on. And before he meets his demise, because of course he doesn't listen to him. He does the most stupid thing possible, and he ends up getting killed by the creature. Everyone else in this movie is trying to take it utterly serious. And now interlaced in all of this survival horror movie is just nauseating. You Stole My Boyfriend drama.
Oh God, that was actually, that was painful. That
was without that. I mean, and yeah, for sure. It was that was turn off right away, right then and there. But the final two girls are the ones who are fighting over this one dude, the Australian Idol. And I found it just the ending where they're like holding each other's hands, sleeping in the car with the dead guy. And you just kind of get out and walk away. And I'm with that dead guy in the car, and the surfer dude just standing there going, "Buddy, you okay?" And I'm like, this is exactly how this movie has to end. This is exactly how it has to do it.
Yeah.
But how about, like, there's so many elements in this movie to peel off. There's like, I don't know. Like I started thinking, should I make it a list of this? Because this is so stupid. There's so much stupid things happening. But then again, I feel like it's a waste of time. But how they kill the creature, because this creature who apparently came out of this gigantic, egg, like from the movie Cocoon, with Wilford Brimley back in, the early 80s, which they don't even, they're bored. We see hours go by. And then like, it's not even like just over the halfway point of the movie, one of them goes, "Look, that egg, it's open."
That egg, it's been there the entire time.
It's been there the entire time. But the ending, this monster that supposedly can't get them if they walk on a 2x4 on the sand. By the end of it, giant tentacles are just thrashing around. I think, where were those things for? At one point, she closes the door to the car, and the tentacle reaches on and grabs the tentacle, like wraps itself around the handle, like it knows what it's doing. It's trying to open the door, but it's locked.
It was funny too. Like this thing is.
I cracked up. Did I yelled at the television set? I was like, "Yes, that is exactly what I would want the tentacle to think it should be doing right now."
And the same tentacle that was trying to take the car tire was also scared of a rubber boot. The same,
right? Couldn't get past the rubber shoes.
What I actually didn't like
about
the
pepper spray, the pepper spray,
but she poured all the petrol around the car, right?
Yeah.
How did the car not explode when she lit it?
Dan, if you're trying to tell me that at this thing, she throws this gas tank on it, and then it proceeds to take this gas tank in the air and just splatter itself all over, like Zoolander style. It just kind of like
barbecue,
drops the gasoline all over itself, doesn't toss it aside, just says, "Let me empty this gas tank all over me."
Yeah.
How do you kill a creature? Like, what do you do when you're on fire?
Drop and roll.
Where does this creature live?
In the sand. So sand will put out fire. Yes.
It gets lit on fire. What does it do? It stays above the sand, writhing around in pain until it dies.
Or it could go to the ocean and put itself out, but that's a different story. I fail to believe that any car made after the 1910s doesn't have a boot release, hood release, whatever you guys call it, a boot release inside it so that they can open up the boot and get their goddamn phones out.
Boot? You mean trunk?
Whatever you guys call it. Yeah, the boot. The back of the car.
The boot
and the bonnet.
What does bonnet mean?
The bit at the front, the bonnet, where the engine is.
I know you are. Wow, that's the bonnet. That's amazing.
Cultural clash here. Now the bit where they finally work out that they can use the surfboards to walk on the sand. Why not throw the surfboard behind you and open up the trunk of the car to get your damn keys out? There was so much wrong with this.
There's so much wrong. Just the levels of stupidity were just on a whole nother level.
I also enjoyed the Pepsi sponsorship that was in the film. That was, I want to hope Pepsi got their money worth out of that. I think it was two counts. It was a Pepsi and a Mountain Dew in it. I believe they're the same company, aren't they?
Maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, I could imagine if I'm dying of thirst, the last thing I'm going to want is a Pepsi that's been sitting in the sun all day long. That's definitely not going to quench my thirst.
They were drinking alcohol. The first thing they do in that lifeguard home, they pop open a bottle of, I'm guessing, vodka, and they just start swigging it. And then when they're also in the cooler, he throws her. No, that looked like vodka to me.
Oh, it was definitely
I'll have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, because they also throw a can of Mountain Dew as well, and then Dean Gayer's character finds a can of Pepsi in Marsha's bag.
I thought he found like a wine cooler or something. He tossed it at.
It was a banana and a can of Pepsi.
Oh boy, I'm gonna replay that scene because I was thinking, why are they drinking alcohol?
Lifeguard towers don't have. Oh, so that's actually just an unmanned lifeguard tower. So that would probably make sense why there's no communication device in.
I don't think it was a I think it was their cooler.
No, there's a tower, the lifeguard tower that the two people were in.
Yeah, but didn't they have their cooler in it? That's what I thought.
Oh yeah, they had their esky. Yeah, a cooler, an esky. They had their esky in there. Yes. God damn it, Ned! Say the right word.
Wow, your Aussie vernacular is killing me, man. I love it.
It's an esky. You put ice in it.
Okay. Are you familiar with the word cooler?
Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't make sense to us. Yeah, cool. Sure, it keeps things cool, but it's not an esky. Wow, an esky. Ford versus Holden, Ned. Do you know what a Ford is? Do you know what a Holden is? Sorry.
Holden is a town that my sister lives in, and a Ford is a car that you can drive.
There you go. In Australia, a Holden is a car that you call a Chevy, owned by GM.
Okay.
Hey, don't knock Holdens. Don't knock Holdens. I thought that Sands was it was popcorn silly, but perhaps a little bit too popcorn silly. Very sci-fi channel type movie. Had that special effects style that is very reminiscent of cheap CGI. And I read a bit more about this movie. So this was not the movie the director intended to make. He had another movie in mind that he wanted to make set on the beach. And something about the production of it fell through. So thus they ended up looking at, I like this funny. They looked at other bunch of scripts and found this. I'm thinking, so you just watched Blood Beach and decided to adapt that. The other bit that confused me a lot was apparently this movie was shot in 12 days. Now, I have got an issue with that statement because I don't believe this would have taken 12 days to shoot. And the only reason I believe it took that long was potentially they decided to shoot everything outdoors, except for the clear scenes that are behind green screen. And they were having problems with continuity of the days of the beach. So I think there are certain times where the beach is clearly shot on different days because the clouds are different and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's why I failed to believe that it really took 12 days to shoot this movie. This looks like a 2 to 3 day shot easily.
Okay.
One location. Yeah. Very bad CGI at the end, because at the end, this is what I was looking out for, and maybe something you can look out for too. At the end, when the final shot is done, and you can see that the beach has kind of cratered in a bit. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that surfy guy is walking out of their car and off the beach, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at that bit going, okay, well, that's definitely CGI. They've CGI'd the indentation of the sand to make it look like it's sunk. They cut the camera just as the surfy guy reaches the edge so that you don't see him continuously walking straight and not climbing up on top of the dune to get out of the crater. Again, my stupid technical mind kicks in when watching these movies going, how are you going to do this? And so they did exactly what I thought they would do.
I was just trying to wonder how they went through a 48-hour period. No, probably like a 36-hour period, maybe.
30, yeah.
And the girls woke up in a car after that harrowing affair and spending an entire day in the hot sun trying to avoid death. And they woke up looking like the smoke shows that they were at the beginning of the movie next to a dead guy.
No one peed. No one pooped. They hardly drank anything. And they're in the beating sun.
All of the onions that they put into their eyes to make those fake tears pour down for those scenes where someone died and they were pretended to be sad for all of 10 seconds before then talking about their relationship problems. No mascara runs. Not a hair out of place of their beautiful faces. And and that was one thing I was okay with.
Fair enough. I'm just thinking that black guy would have stank. Sitting in the sun, sitting there in his own piss.
I can't imagine. Listen, I felt that was the hardest scene to watch. Him in that garbage can. You could see like they put blood around his waistline because he's in there. And he kept then going, "I'm dying, I'm dying." I'm thinking like, at some point I would have said, you know something, I'm going to lose my legs. I'm going to make a run for it. Well, that guy was in some serious problem. Like there's like, how are they going to get him out?
Yeah. Well, he would have had to make a roll for it, I think, not a run for it. But anyway, that's a bad fat joke for it. Yeah. I thought they were going, and in fact, what I thought they were doing by throwing the food was I thought they were trying to get this creature to move,
distracted. Yeah.
So they could run to somewhere else.
It's the same, like if you throw it over here, but they're trying to see how big it was. How would they know? Yeah. And I guess they were right. I guess that was the one thing that was smart what they did. And when he threw it and the bird came by, the CGI bird, that was great. Nab the dog. Yeah, there was a bunch of graphical errors. Like I saw one scene where a bird flew behind somebody and then nothing came out the other side. Yeah.
That's a bad fuck up, actually. That is.
There were some good moments here. Also, did you notice that they didn't show any of the girls die horribly? Like the topless Playboy model, she fell in. She's like, I can't get up. And then they went to the other girl's boyfriend who jumped out and to try and help her. And they showed his death. And even for CGI, for cheap CGI, I thought that was pretty good. With his face, half his face being melted off. I thought that was okay. I gave it credit for that.
So I'm wondering, 2015.
Then they turned around. Then they forgot about the topless girl. Like I guess she's dead now.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if there's more. Very politically sensitive with a lot of topics in America at that time. So I'm just wondering whether this was more of a. Let's not be misogynistic. Although having a girl topless for a good couple of minutes doesn't go against that goes against that statement actually. But who knows? Who knows? It clearly showed its lack of budget with a lot of what it did. But we talked about it. We spent far too long talking about it. We watched it. And in the end, I'd probably give it just barely over one ghost.
Yeah, I'd give it one poop emoji.
There you go. Oh, so you want me to give it a poop emoji? Is that what you just said then?
Yeah. Give it a poop emoji. No.
All right, Ned. Are we doing recommendations for next?
Yeah. Give me some homework. I think you kind of already know the movie I'm going to give you.
It's all right. You can give it to me again.
It's so I needed to. You and our relationship is fairly newish. So I had to check you and say, of some of my favorite horror movies of all time, I didn't want to take for granted that you may not have seen them all. And one of them, you said you don't think you saw it, or if you had, you don't remember it. So your homework is to see for the first time or revisit.
We just had a technical issue then. And I lost a part of what you said.
Oh, am I back?
You're back. I'm back. But we froze very slightly. So please tell me again.
Okay. Yeah, you're kind of like a little bit delayed. Like I'm watching a kung fu movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, we're near the end, which is good. So the movie they have for you is Exorcist 3.
Yeah, I thought so. Yep. Exorcist 3. Okay. So I know I've seen part 1 and I know I've seen part 2. Part 2 is that ridiculous one in the desert or something like that, isn't it?
It's like there's a lot of it's in an interview, and Reagan's back in it. Samantha Blair, she reprises her role.
Linda Blair.
Linda Blair.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
All right. So Exorcist
But
3.
Exorcist 3 does not involve Linda Blair's character at all.
Oh, no Reagan.
And it stars George C. Scott, who actually was in some decent horror movies. I know he's in one of my good friend K2's one of his recommendation movies, The Changeling. But I thought, he's a good actor. He's in Firestarter. I thought he was great in Firestarter, and I think he's great in this movie too. But I'm not going to say anything more about it. We'll talk about it after you see it.
Well, then wasn't George C. Scott just in Pieces? Is that him?
Oh, no.
No. I'm trying to think of Brad Dourif's in it. Oh, great. Chucky's in it. Have I seen this?
He's amazing. He's amazing in this movie.
No, I haven't seen this. Okay. Well, I look forward to watching this.
Good.
Then I'm going to give you a movie that I talked about just an hour ago. It's a Thai movie called The Maid. Have you seen it?
Okay. No, but as you're describing it, it sounds reminiscent of
It's like The Ugly Stepsister.
Not The Rehearsal, not The Apprentice. Holy smoke! It's a J horror.
J horror.
I can't think of the name of the movie. The Rehearsal. No, the Audition. Audition. That's it. You've seen Audition, right?
I have seen Audition. It's been a long time since I've seen Audition.
That movie surprised me. Actually, I thought it was just going to be sort of a shock and effect, but I thought that was actually a pretty good movie.
I'm always confused by the lead actress in that movie because every time I see her in a movie, I wonder if she actually enjoys what she does or if that's just her thing where she's just ultra stoic all the time.
Yeah. Was she also? She was a star of Tokyo Gore Police too, right?
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was fabulous in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, watch The Maid. It has my favorite Thai actress in it in her best role ever. She's done a lot of crap, but this is probably her best role ever. And if you find the first 45 or so minutes slow, you definitely should not find the last half an hour slow. It's one of those movies that builds up and then just kicks you in the head. Exactly a bit like The Ugly Stepsister does. So there you have to watch The Maid. I have to watch The Exorcist 3. All right. It should be fairly easy to find The Maid because I believe it was a Netflix film about 2 or 3 years ago. It was a pretty big deal.
It's on Prime right now, so I'm good to go.
Beautiful. I am the Arty Dance. This is NeddKnight. You are watching Shockmania Friday Night Live. Ned, anything else you want to say to everyone before we go?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to make sure if anyone's out there, because what we like as a reoccurring segment is for somebody to recommend a watch for us.
Yes.
Out there from. So we know the chat was pretty quiet today, but if somebody wants to come in and just put a comment on the video with a recommendation for us, we'll watch it and we'll review it.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. And I know Kimber's given us plenty in the past, so it's just probably not the same night for him. And I definitely know Lyle's not available on Friday nights. Sunday nights is probably better for him. So maybe we need to look at, I don't want to look at changing the date because I have to work on Monday, but maybe there's opportunities on public holidays or stuff to do a special Sunday night episode, I think. Yeah. And in fact, I have a public holiday coming up shortly on a Monday. So perhaps we can do a Sunday episode very shortly. Everyone, have a great night. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you get out there and watch The Ugly Stepsister. And we'll catch you in a couple of weeks. See you later.
Peace.
And that awkward bit